Good morning, world.
Good morning.
August 2019. Hard to believe,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we're getting ready to go into the madness time of year, and school starting and things being put into place, back to school, then homecoming, then holiday madness. And by the time we turn around, it'll be 2020.
Yeah, we're just about harvest to holiday now.
Harvest to holiday. Okay, harvest to holiday.
Like that.
Yeah, I do. I'll start using that as of today. All right, so here we go. We're going to start talking about when we were writing these topics last year, we write the topics based on probably what's going on in our lives at that time. And our daughter says literally every other word. And I thought, do you even know how you're really using it? And so I thought that'd be a great class or a great subject rather, because of the amount of people that are probably using it in their daily language today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. So literally, if we think about it and what it's going to mean, and of course we always start off with the definition, it's in a literal manner or sense, and it's exactly. It means exactly, right? So how I thought about literally is are we having the business exactly the way we want it? Are the services, the people, the systems, the facility exactly? Are we literally able to say this is exactly the standards I have in place?
Sure. And can we communicate it?
Yes.
Do we inspect it? Have we determined an exact manner in which we're going to do business?
Or an exact model, right?
Yeah.
And I think that when businesses start to slip, and I go back to my days in hospitality when we would open a restaurant. And first thing is, I remember the first time they said, we're going to hire 150 people, hoping that 75 make it through the training. We plan to lose 50% of them. Statistics prove that we're going to lose 50%. And I thought, wow, that's a lot of effort to put in to people that aren't going to be here. And they said, yes, but the cream rises to the top. So we would do the interview process. We would be there 30 days. We'd start the interview process. And then, of course, the trainers would be there for 2 weeks. And then you could see what would happen. But here's also what was very interesting. In the beginning, it's kind of like an NFL team that starts with how many, and they've got to cut it down to 60, right? When we would first open, there'd be 6 hostesses up there, and there was really only need for 2. But they had to overstaff to be able to understand how they fit in slowly to the model. And you can go to a grand opening of a restaurant, and everyone's there: the regional manager, the district manager, the manager, the assistant managers. Everyone's there for opening, and you're overstaffed in the front of the house. You're overstaffed in the back of the house. Now you go there 6 or 8 months later, it's a completely different situation. We've now settled into the traffic. Now we're scheduling based on what is versus what could be. And when we first opened, it was all about what we could be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes when I'm talking to owners, and just recently, I talked to an owner that has 6 stations and 3 color bars, but there's only 3 staff working there. So what they did is they started scheduling or planning or working to what is versus what could be, right? And now the business isn't at full capacity. The business isn't humming. The business looks empty. And that's hard to be able to protect and survive and understand how to create momentum in that kind of environment. So
there's a phrase that says the work expands to fill the time allotted.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe you could also add it expands to fill the space allotted. And so when you look at that, it does allow us to stall out. If you'll think of that in within the context of your own 4 walls of your salon,
sure,
or your business, how does that apply? Has it adjusted to fit the space? Has it adjusted to fit the time allotted? Are you at capacity? Are you near capacity? Have you settled for what is instead of pushing for
What could
a more literal sense of what you went in business for and why you chose 6 stations and 3 color bar stations and so on. There was a reason why that was done.
And how does that not, I think I said to the owner, how does that not drive you nuts seeing that space empty? Right? It'd be like going into a restaurant and see 3 dining rooms that don't have any lights on. And the customers are going to judge capacity. You might not think they do, but they do. They judge capacity. Okay, so that's a good start. So now you know the mood we're in, or I'm in, right? So how do we do it here? The biggest thing for literally is understanding and having very high standards of how we do it here. And when you don't, it almost becomes someone else's interpretation of your business, the staff's interpretation, the customer's interpretation, versus training the guest to be a guest in your salon and training the team to be a team member in your business. So you have to ask questions all the time, and you're going to see this throughout this presentations. When do we make it too hard? When do we make it too big? Meaning just spending so much time on something that really didn't need that much energy. We made it too big, too hard. When do we make it about us versus our guests? When do we refuse to follow the system? And when do we fight the system? And when do we let the salon down? Now, these are questions that you should be asking all the time, looking at and just throwing questions. Steve and I are asking a lot of questions right now for something we're going through. And it's amazing to me how people answer. When there's structure and systems in place, they answer very easily. When there's not, they stall out.
They look at the ceiling.
Kind of do, right? And so what we have found is when you know it, when you understand, and when you own it, it's very easy to defend it. Very easy. So let's go somewhere with this. Literally is a commitment to excellence.
I know where you're going.
And literally is to be known for it. And when you look at the commitment to excellence and your standards, are you known for it? Are you saying, this is how we do it here? Is your staff saying, this is how she wants it? This is what our expectations are. And I don't care if it's a commitment to excellence on punctuality, a commitment to excellence on education, commitment to excellence on developing our services and systems, but are you known for it? Are you always trying to create enhancements to make the boat go faster? We've talked about that before.
Okay, you got to back up.
Go back up, back up. Ooh, Brian. Got it.
I thought you were going to tell your barber story.
Okay.
And meeting with the staff, the security people.
Oh, yeah, you tell it. Oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you. Was it 2 weeks ago now? We went to see Barbara Streisand. And so I even asked a lot of questions there of any of the staff. We were in the 12th row, and I'm telling you, it was just a highlight of my year. And wow, did I need it. It was great. And I think I've said before in other classes, there's so many times that you get around a mentor and you look at them and just watch them as a celebrity versus you get around a mentor of yours and what can you learn from them? What can you study from them? What can you take on? And what she's known for, and this is amazing where Steve's going to take this in the story, but she's known for her commitment to excellence, absolutely known for it. She's down to earth, but her standards are extremely high of herself as well as the people that she works around.
Mm-hmm.
So
we were talking with one of the crowd control people, one of the ushers at the intermission, and just really talking about.
She's probably in her 20s.
Yeah, she's in her 20s, and typical. I know she works probably many events there at the United Center, and I just made mention to her, and I said, "Boy, I bet you've got the most fun job here tonight," because she was policing adults who were continuing to video with their smartphones or take photos
Yeah.
when it had been asked several times for people not to, because of the distraction to all the stage artists that were there. And so people would try and then she would have to tap them on the shoulder and they would stop, and then she'd turn to the other side of the aisle. When she turned to the other side of the aisle, all the phones came back up on this side of the aisle. And she was just kind of like watching a tennis match. She went back and forth trying to control these adults. And so I thought she was just going to say something like, yeah, it's tough job. But what she said was interesting. She said Barbara herself met with the entire staff of crowd control, ushers, before the concert. And she talked to them about what she expected. She talked about her commitment to being able to deliver the best concert possible to her audience and what their responsibility to it was. And she said that she would be in constant communication with the lead person on the staff. And if she looked out in the audience and she saw someone not doing their job, she would have them removed from the event immediately and replaced. And so this little 20-year-old said, to be honest with you, I've been sitting here scared to death all night, because she's 12 rows from the stage. She certainly can be seen by Barbara. She certainly can be seen if she's not doing what she's supposed to be doing. And I thought it was so interesting that here's someone who her fans love her. She could mail in the concert and everybody would have a ball. Mm-hmm. But little things that she said showed, little things that Barbara said even throughout the night, like practicing all day at 77 years old, practicing, rehearsing. It's just amazing.
That's
just amazing.
That's a commitment to excellence.
And it's what she's known for.
And some people might think, well, yeah, in 27,000 people, how is she going to know that people are taking photos? Because in those areas, she can see the flashes go on. And so as a result, she would be able to say, over here in this section is really creating a blind spot for me, right? So it was amazing. Are you known for that kind of excellence? And do you expect that from people? And if you understand the intentions, her intentions was to deliver a great concert. So any distraction she has to move is something she's going to manage, right?
Yes, and it goes beyond it. It's inside your four walls, but it's also outside your four walls. I mean, I can tell the difference in our salons that are absolutely committed to an aesthetic standard, even through their social media. It's just different. It's just different than everyone else's. It might still be a photo of finished work, but it's different. I think
they check the surroundings. They check to make sure that everything in the photograph is complementing the photograph, not taken away from it. Right?
And is the lighting right? Is the shadowing right? It's so much, and yet it's just a post that has a life of a short period of time. But again, you can tell, and you expect it. When I'm scrolling, I expect to see certain salons
in that
well
way.
Done.
Well, and I was looking at a friend's photographs, and she took a selfie, but in the selfie is a picture of the powder room seat. Mm-hmm. Well, who would do? I don't get it. Seriously, you didn't look at the photo and see that? Yes, because so many kids take pictures in the powder room, but you don't want to see the powder room seat in the photograph. How did you not catch that? And not looking at the right thing. So how do you teach your staff to look for and inspect the right things? Is that me? You can just throw that out in the hallway if you want. So how do we make sure everyone is on the same page? And is literally on the same page. Literally. So we must sell and explain the whys. I mean, we're selling all the time. And when we're selling, we're trying to put into people's minds, we're selling them on the why we do it like this here and explain the whys.
You know, I just wanted to say that because so many of the times hairdressers think that they're not salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my key mentors, Zig Ziglar, who came into my life at a very young age, taught me that in every conversation, a sale is made. Every conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care whether it's convincing your child or your dog not to run into the street, to be polite, to
use manners,
to service the guest in a certain way, to speak in a certain way, separating the dialogue from home to professional.
mm-hmm.
All of those things, a sale is made. And what you have to say is are you the seller or are you the buyer? You're trying to sell someone on why they should, and many times their response is trying to sell you on why they shouldn't or why they can't.
Right.
I had that situation very much this morning with our son on his last day of summer camp. He was selling hard on why he wasn't
going to participate today. Yes.
And of course, Dad was selling the other way.
Mm-hmm. And you kept, how many times did you say the why?
Over
and over and over again.
30 minutes worth.
So understanding the components of the system is you must check for understanding. And I think this is really interesting. So you could say in a meeting that you're having with your staff, this year we're all about growth, right? We're going to grow, grow, grow. And so what does that mean to the listener? Does growth mean number of staff that we're going to bring on? Does it mean we're going to grow our traffic? Are we going to grow the pipeline of revenue? Are we going to increase and grow the dollar per guest? I didn't finish my thought. Are we going to increase take home? How you do check for understanding of this is you can either provide handouts. You can say these are our top priorities. These are our 1, 2, and 3 commitments to this year. But if you don't explain and have them understand what you really literally meant by the word growth, you can have people's different interpretations. You can also have an interpretation of this place looks a mess, let's clean it up. That doesn't have, you can't check for an understanding there. You have to say, move these chairs, put these in resting position, let's make sure we get mopping on this, let's make sure we get this done. You have to give specifics. And when most of the time we get frustrated as owners is because they don't see what we see. Well, you have to say that differently. Did you teach what you see? Did you teach what you see so now they can see it themselves? So we're going to talk about the enhancements and how to create exactlies for you. We're going to break it down into services, systems, people, manpower, and of course, the facility. So once again, when we look at service, gosh, I've had some bad service recently again, but I had some great service too. A young lady was so good with me. Where was I? I can't remember now. She stood out, the business didn't. Create a community of awareness. And the community I'm talking about is right inside your location. What's hard is people really don't see unprofessionalism. They don't see it in themselves. They're just comfortable. Whether it's someone eating at the front desk, right? It could be someone not dressed appropriately. And all of these fall under the service category. How do we help create awareness? How do we help them understand that this isn't appropriate right now? You have to bring it to their attention. And you have to bring it to their attention every time you see it. Is it exhausting? Absolutely. But you keep saying it until you make impact. And so you have to be responsible to the services and identify the trouble spots, make your decisive, quick action, and improve the processes. And so when I walk by, even in here, if I see something, I'm going to say it. If I don't like it, I'm going to bring it to someone's attention, or just probably ask a question. Yeah, I just heard you on the phone. Who are you speaking with? That didn't feel like it was going very well. Or I might say, is that guest okay? Because she doesn't look happy. You bring in and create a community of awareness. And the greatest way you do that is show your awareness all the time yourself, that you're absolutely aware. You're not just walking through the business. You're walking to inspect. You're walking to assess the business at all times. We don't have the luxury just to walk through. We're always assessing. But you have to tell them what they see. Yesterday, we took Jack to his 7th grade meet and greet at the middle school. And there was a lot of assessing going on, I'll tell you that. Watching parents with their kids, watching kids with their parents, watching teachers welcome kids. Some were really good at it. Some have a very contagious way. How was Jack's first encounter? Just watching and assessing, because you want to make sure that your child's in good hands. Indirectly, that's what a guest is doing when they're in your salons. They're assessing to make sure they're going to be in good hands. And they're watching to see. They're identifying trouble spots. They're watching the decision making, and they're improving the process. And
price figures into that as well.
Sure.
Where it may not at school, but I always think of the kind of the balance of justice, and that visual of the scale on one side and the scale on the other side. That's really every guest that walks into a salon has that scale that's going on 100% of the time.
Right.
And on the one side is price, and on the other side is value. On one side is service or lack of. And all of those things are going up and down each time, each encounter that you have, that your team has. You could be doing wonderful yourself, but if you've got the wrong person at the service desk, if you've got the wrong people in the wash house, if you've got the wrong upkeep on your color bar, if you are scheduled so tightly that A, you can never be on time, and B, the station always looks disheveled. All of those things add to value and the value for the price.
I guess people say, even in the 2 owners I met with in the last 10 days, how do you just be that honest? I don't even know how to answer that question, right? I guess as a trainer for 40 years, it's my job to be that honest. But I think when you look at it, I mean, when I walk in, I'm inspecting the parking lot. When I walk into a room, I'm looking at everything, and I'm going to call it out immediately. Are you known for that? Can you get people on their toes, awareness-wise, or are their shoulders still down and you don't bring up the spirit in them at all? You've got to identify the trouble spots. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. You could say, wow, our energy's really low today, or that's the wrong music, or did anyone do any facing today? You see everything you see. Don't keep it in your head. That's the whole point. We're disappointed and we're going to get to it. No, you've got a lot of resources around you. You use them and say, can you get this? Can you get that? Can you get that? Man, I had candy this morning, right? Go figure. But I'm also inspecting the way the candy bar looks. Is it all full? Is it look current? I walked in and saw Christine in the space. I looked what she had on. We talked. Her energy was good. I know what she's working on. I heard her take a call. I walked in and saw Dana in education, acknowledged her. I could see that she was working on something. You're inspecting, right? And that was just all with walking through and getting a cup of coffee. And so we never get to, in our own businesses, just walk around, right?
Well, and that's your scanning rate. That's how you scan the business. You don't have time to sit in every stylist chair. You don't have time to be in every treatment room. You don't have time to spend, a lot of times, an hour behind the service desk, or just sit in the wash house.
And if you think inspecting means a conversation for an hour with someone,
not at all.
You're never going to get to, no. And if I would have saw something with Christine today, I would have said, you okay? Or if I would have saw something with Dana, I looked at Colleen and I also noticed Madison's hair. I can tell you the amount of people I've touched already in a very short period of time. But you have to make sure that they see that you're looking at them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you make those quick deposits because you're checking on mood, on standards, so on and so forth. It's going to make more sense. This one's a good slide. When you think about frustrated guests, I mean, they don't become long-term guests, right? They just leave.
Well, and we have to take that even further. A satisfied guest isn't necessarily a long-term guest.
That's true. But this is for sure.
Yeah, this is absolutely for sure.
And they become other salons guests. They're going to go somewhere.
And they tell their story.
Well, and I love this one. I was thinking about this. How many times can a business who gets comfortable with you put a strain on the loyalty, right? So what I mean by that is conversations where you think your guest can handle your comments about your teammates, or you think your guest can hear you complaining about your work schedule. You think your guest, and that's putting a strain on their loyalty. That's not what they're there for,
mm-hmm.
right? So when you do any of that, they're really going to be put in a position to feel taken advantage of. More guests talk a lot about bad services versus good, and happy guests spend more. We know all this. But are we putting a strain on the loyalty? And sometimes we put on a strain on the loyalty of a teammate. We put a strain on the loyalty because an owner will get too close to one teammate. That's putting a strain on their loyalty. And then we get too close to our guests. That puts a strain. A teammate can get too close to another. A front desk person gets too close to a person on the service floor. That puts a strain on loyalty for them to each other. And wow, it just makes it too hard. And that's kind of when you go into ask the questions. Again, are we making it too hard? Are we making it too big? And let's give some examples of this. When you have a staff member that's kind of hard to do business with, and we start talking about them with other teammates, or talking about people behind their back versus leading to them to their face, we're really breaking down the system of service. Regardless if we know it or not, we are. Oh, our guests don't know. Don't be a fool. Your guests know when there's a breakdown in energy, a breakdown in relationships, a breakdown in customer support. And it's hard. We were meeting with someone just recently, and women especially take everything personally. And she said something very interesting that I've thought about since she said it. She said, if we take things personally, then we're making it about us versus making it about the guest.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really good.
It's huge and true.
And I've thought about that a lot. I said, wow, you don't take disrespect personally? And she said, no, because then it would be about me. I was like, wow, are you kidding? Because disrespect to me it's hard for me not to get triggered by disrespect. But it's true. But we have some of that going on in salons every single day. And unless a team is really supporting each other, and this is why professional teams spend so much time creating a team respect attitude so they can play well on the court or play well on the field together or hang out in the dugout and be good to each other. You can tell when the dynamics of a team are right, and usually the scoreboard is a great indicator, right? And so when you look at the dynamics of your team, what's it feel like and what's it look like? And so you ask these questions just about the service. Is our service too hard? Is our pricing too difficult to explain? Is it about our scheduling versus the customer's ability to schedule with us? When do we refuse to follow the system, squeeze in? When do we fight the system by discounting? When do we let the salon down? There's so many ways that we could have breakdowns with this, but we're not addressing them on a regular basis.
Another simple thing that sometimes we just tend to look the other way on is, what happens when you have a full salon education or training and you've got one or two people who just don't come?
Yeah, didn't show up that day.
That's a moment of truth. That's
Sure.
a moment of literally or not so much.
Mhm.
And I get it. It's everybody will tell you it's different times, but what are you known for? I think back to the first time I saw Frederick Fekkai on stage, and I watched him work. I watched him work with his assistant. I watched him where he positioned himself with the guest. And every step was part of a dance, but it was orchestrated.
Choreographed beautifully.
And it was the same every single guest. And then I think of Stephen Moody from Vidal Sassoon, and now with Wella. But watching a Sassooni cut hair is another sort of dance that takes place, and it just they're literally precise.
Well, and they're not generic at all. They are very specific. And so when we're talking about creating more of a service commitment to our guests in our salon, it's, are you allowing generic service, or are you having specific services? I mean, the way they put the cape on, the way they put the neck strip on, the consultation always closes with the guest standing in front of Frederick Fekkai or his assistant. The way they take the cape off, the way they style hair and dry hair, and the way that their service cards look are all very specific. It's not their way, it's the Frederick Fekkai way. And that's when you can create a model of excellence, is when you know. I think that when you watch someone learning a new instrument, whether it's the violin or the piano, they all start off with the basics, and then they advance with talent. They advance, and you're not allowed to be creative with the violin in a lesson until you've mastered the violin. And so I think that when I speak to someone, I was talking to my cousin just recently, and her daughter's a hairdresser, and do they have that willpower and fight to be an expert, And service doesn't mean service, consistency, and service specifically doesn't mean robots. It means you're banking on a professional system.
Yeah,
I like that.
and to a degree, it's also what you described to me is grit.
It is grit, absolutely.
It's just how intense are you after what it is that you want. I mean, the lack of grit is giving up when it's difficult, not pressing through, not pushing through, not repeating your commitment to excellence in what it is you've got your eyes on. And there's obviously there's too little of that kind of humanity-wide, but those people that have that are the people who fill stadiums, are the people who fill salons, they're the people who fill churches, they're the people who fill retail stores. They just are. Those people that are working there, they matter. They make a difference. Their grit shows. Their excellence shows through. It's wonderful to be served by them. Feels right.
Yeah, it does. It really does. So the next one is we're going to examine our systems now and ask the same questions. We examine the ease of which our guests navigate the salon during their service. Is it easy? Do they look like they're bouncing around? Do they look like they don't know where to go? Do they look good while they're being escorted through? Are our systems supporting the process for the guest as well as the salon? We have to make sure it's okay. I mean, you can watch the checkout and the check-in sometimes and know that that's awkward, but in the chair is solid. Then you can see the check-in and check-out be smooth, but in the chair is awkward, or the shampoo is awkward, or, okay, now you're going to sit over here. Not, this is where we process your color. Please sit back and relax. Not just go sit over there, right? Mm-hmm. There's so many ways that you can make the process sound more specific. I was thinking, when you look at purposeful service, it's saying every step out loud, even if you're going to say it 40 times a day. Come on back isn't a way to invite someone into the salon. or go sit there and I'll check on you in 45 minutes. There's different ways that you can do it that can make it sound better. And just watch the guests. Do they look comfortable? Do they look at ease? Examine the ease at which our guests navigate. And there's really a physical side to this business, and there's an emotional side to this business. And I think I talked about this girl before many times. There's a physical capability, and there's an emotional capability, a physical connection to the job and an emotional connection to the job. So we're in Hawaii once, and I told Steve that this waitress is one of the best physical waitresses I've ever seen. She was fast. She was on top of it. She was ready when her food came up. She delivered quickly. She filled her glasses. And so her physical part of the job was done beautifully. Her emotional connection to her guests was absolutely absent.
Non-existent.
Never looked in her eyes. She barely spoke to us at all. She knew the mechanics of the job, but she forgot the people side of the job. And so to navigate, if someone was really watching, they would say, wow, she's really fast. But you know what? She never connects with her customer. Mm-hmm. So they would notice that we were uncomfortable. But I bet she's there for years. I mean, she knew it like the back of her hand. And she took ownership, but she didn't have any connection. And look what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about her personality. I'm talking about the physical side. And so we have to watch that we're not making this job. It's got to be balanced both, the physical side, and then you can have someone that connects, like Gino will say, he connect with everyone, right? But he wasn't the greatest cutter, and mm-hmm. wasn't the greatest at sanitation, wasn't great at those things, the younger side of his career. He was relying on his personality to get him through, and didn't want to do the work to create the physical side and the physical disciplines of the job. So there's two parts to it. Emma right now is going to a camp, and she's navigated beautifully on the physical side. It's the emotional side that has been a challenge for her. And I see that in salons a lot of times, right? You can see that they start to learn how to cut hair, but then they're talking about the wrong things. Yeah, I mean, you got to mold them on every step of the way. Good? So we're going to ask all these same questions again about this topic, about systems. We're asking all these same questions, and you should have a list for all of it. Now let's go to the people side. When you think about creating a team of strength and talent, I mean, if any of you can, please watch the Hard Knocks training camps again on HBO. They always, who are they doing this year?
They're doing the Oakland Raiders.
So
John Gruden.
Oh, I love John Gruden. And I love his intensity and how he thinks about the game of football. But watch how do they go from 90 to 60? I don't know.
I think so. It's down to 50 or 55.
Okay, but they've got to cut people during the process. And you can see conversations with the coaches saying, defend this person. Should we keep him on our roster? Unify our teams behind a certain message of strength and talent, right? And that's what they do. When you think about your people on staff, somebody say, well, they're an assistant right now. Okay, where are they at in the process? Well, they're probably only 3 months in. Are they on pace? Is this exactly where you want them? Can you excel them? Can you challenge them during this process? Don't let an assistant feel like they're just labor for the staff, like we're using you for us to speed up our performance. So when we look at providing a rich knowledge base, our goal is to create experts, because experts are required. And we want mastery, and we want people to put the time in and know that they're growing on a daily basis. We want effort, execution, and high intention. That's what we're looking for. Now, how are you talking about these things on a daily basis, or are we talking about color? Or are we talking about a haircut? Or are we talking about timing? All of that you can talk about as long as you incorporate the knowledge base that we're trying to create for them. It's a confidence base, because when experts are created, it's obvious, right? And when they've mastered something, maybe a token is given, you've mastered, you have your wings in color, you have your wings in cutting, and you have your wings in updo, you have your wings in customer service. You finally realized how to speak to someone. I went to get a sandwich from my mom yesterday on the way home, and I went to Which Wich, is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Brian, have you been there to Which Wich? It's good, it's right by Mariano's. And I was in there, and a girl came in. I was the only customer in the place, and there were 3 employees behind the counter, and they showed me how to use the system and everything. And then a girl came in that works there too. And that always shows me something, if you want to show up at your job when you're not working. So it means there's some friendships that are created. So she and I just started chatting. She goes, I'll wait to talk to all of you after this guest is taken care of. I like that. So she's going to West, and she's going to nursing school, and she's decided this is what she wants to do. And with her personality for a senior in high school was outstanding. And she just returned from Greece with her family, and I said, what did you learn over there? It's on our bucket list. We'd like to see Greece someday. And I just kept pushing her to see if she was comfortable. She did a beautiful job speaking to an adult, and she had such good skills that if she knew how to cut hair, I wouldn't be afraid to go to her as a hairdresser. That's how great her skills were in talking to people. Sometimes they can have great technical skills, but you have got to make sure that they are able to look up and be able to communicate and really work on this. This is getting worse and worse and worse, where I was talking to Jennifer. She has a 14-year-old also, and you can see people text all day to each other, but they see each other in the hallway and they don't even speak, right? We have to work on this. And just even if they have to say hello to all of us every day, say hello to every guest that's coming in. You are going to be on the Greek team for at least a week while we're working on your social skills. You've got to create masteries, and please don't think it's just with the hands,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so obvious when the other things are a void. So we're going to ask questions about the people. Again, same questions.
Well, and one of the things that we've recently learned is, do you see people as people, or do you see them as objects?
Oh, this is so good.
And sometimes that when it doesn't feel right, it's that we have a team that's treating people in their chair like they're objects. Every person is a person that we're dealing with. It's why a machine can't do what we do. It's why the people side is really so important, and it's important in every field. There's no doubt, but in our field, it's a have to. It's not a nice to. It's a have to, and people have to want to do that. There has to be a real want. There's a quote that I put on my wall this morning, and I almost didn't put it on because it could be taken in the wrong way, but what I put on there is that you have no idea what's going on in the world of the person that you meet, or for this case, the person that's in your chair.
Mm-hmm.
Just be nice. Just be nice. To be nice, you have to see him as a person. To be nice, you have to be committed to doing the right thing, always, and having a business that cares. So I think that bears repeating in here, because if we're going to be literally, we're in the business of having people feel better about themselves
Mm-hmm.
after they leave our salon than before they came in. It's not about us. It's not about it's about the way they feel about themselves.
Well, and so if you have a team that's at odds, how are you going to create that environment? Or if you have a team that's short-staffed, or the phone, you don't have a receptionist, so you have to continually, someone has to excuse themselves to answer the phone. Just watch. What does it feel like to be a guest in your own business, right? Okay. So we ask questions again, get our list. Now let's look at the facility. And this is the one that I spend a lot of time on. I mean, I like all four of these, but I continually look at, is this the right design? Do we have the right placement, not only of people, but of furniture? Do we have things in the right place so it's easy to do business with us? Does our staff have the right tools, right location, right parking, right neighbors, right environment? And when you look at the facility, you're looking at everything on the inside. Now, wait, let me finish my thought. You're looking for everything on the inside that complements what you're trying to accomplish, right? So, like for right now, I mean, Trish is on me for an extra lunchroom. She said, you know, we're doing so much education. We have multiple education going on, and for us, you know, we might need another lunchroom for our staff. So I'm watching it very closely. And during an event, I'll watch how is lunch impacting how our guests move around the business with ease, right? Same questions we're asking you to ask, we ask ourselves. We look at parking, we look at the neighbors. Sometimes I think I should put some trees up to hide maybe how the neighbors carry themselves or how the neighbors look. How do we look? You don't have to live with that, or you just have to think of solutions. I know that when we came into our neighborhood, we raised the bar for the neighborhood just by the way we carry ourselves. And you know, the last thing you want to be is a place where they go, gosh, as soon as you moved here, the place went to heck, right? Because you don't have standards, and you don't protect, and you don't act like your grand opening every day. Having that kind of intensity is a commitment. Looking at how you have to look and how you have to position yourselves. Is your facility right? Do we become dated sometimes because of financial resources? Sure we do. But how do we still look the best? And people know that we put effort in to making sure our facility is right for them, right? And that's huge. And he asked the questions about facility. I mean, is our computer system, is our software still working for us? Are we doing confirmations? Are we making it too hard to communicate with our customers? Are our hours right? When do we make our schedules about us versus prime time? There's a lot of things you can ask about your facility. These same questions apply for everything you're doing. And when does our staff refuse to follow the system and fight the system? I think if I had to say when owners get frustrated, it's I don't know how to bring the best out in my people. And usually it's because we haven't said we're going to put everything on the table on what we're doing right now, and this is what I need from you, right? Or you say to them, I haven't been able to bring out the best in you. I might need to release you to have another leadership put in the effort, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, people get cut in the pros all the time.
And many times do better somewhere else.
Yes, maybe it's a different
People land on their feet.
Yeah, they do. So why are we tolerating marginal performance? I mean, for a girl to say, a girl to work 27 hours a week and see 8 customers, how long are we going to tolerate that in our business? And give her a chair in our facility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that goes with placement too. Right? I look at this chair and you're only seeing 8 customers a week. If I brought in the right employee that could see 20 customers a week, she's going to be happier and more content. And what is this girl doing if only 8 customers a week in 27 hours? What kind of energy is she taking away from us when she's not working?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many parts that you tolerate. Why? Why do we tolerate? We know the right answer. And the amount of times I meet with an owner and say, do they know you feel like this? No.
Right.
Okay, well, when do you think they should know?
Well, and many times, I mean, I've always believed that people won't disappoint us on purpose. I think that what we lack is clarity for them, being clear. And clarity is a little bit about literally as well.
It is. And some people can handle a real honest approach, and some people can't. Where are we at on time? Ooh, we're good. Do you have any questions or comments or anything coming up? No? Brian's shaking his head no. Brian is our producer.
Our executive producer.
Our executive, heavy on the executive producer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that when I think about this topic, you know, I remember one time I said to Steve, you know, when I think about service, systems, people and facility, I remember one time I walked into your office. I said, God, I hate turnover. It drives me nuts. Training another one, training another one, training another one. And then I remember walking into your office, I don't know, much time later, and I said, I hate marginal performance 1,000 times more than I hate turnover.
Both have a cost.
Oh, huge. But it's usually, I'll tell you, it usually falls under leadership, tolerance, tolerating them not following our system, and not holding them accountable, or not being honest with them about what we see and what our deliverables are. And it's obvious when they're making the job too hard. Good. Are we good?
We're good.
We're good.
Thank you all very much.
Do you know what next month's topic is?
Next month.
Next month.
We'll know.
You know, it'll have something to do with football because football season's right around the corner, and the Browns are really going to be something special this year. Yeah?
We drank the Kool-Aid.
I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm there. Have a great month, everyone.
Thanks for being with us.
Bye.